welcome to the World Press Conference in Honorable President Nwoko. As I told you, it's all about today's conference going around the state of the nation. A lot of things have been happening in our country over some time now, and there's a need that we address some of these things, some of these issues to move around, from states to federal and all. So I'm so sorry again for keeping you guys busy. We have a meeting somewhere to catch up. So at this point in time, we are going to kick off with the conference, so that first of all, is there any need for us to have a brief introduction of ourselves? So at this point in time, the press conference is very open. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everybody. Well, I discussed with my friend here, and Christian Ogodo. And the essence of this particular media chat wasn't to be a World Press Conference. It has to do with some response to one or two media write-ups that were brought to my attention. So what I'm going to do is to give you some documents to read. Just give you like 2 minutes, 3 minutes to read, and then I will speak on them. So can you just do so? Anybody who doesn't understand what that contains, what it is all about, it's self-explanatory. Well, you see, the same way you got it now, apart from my covering letter to the IG, was how I got it about just over two and a half months ago. 2.5 months ago, one morning, my wife, Regina, forwarded something to me. I looked at it, I opened it, I said, where is it from? I went through it. Same way you're going through it now. And she said to me she got it from a company director. The owner of that company is a guy called Wale. This company is a fairly big company. They're called Sapphire. Sapphire are perfume makers. You probably know about them. Regina happens to be one of the brand ambassadors for Sapphire, the perfume company. So I asked to speak with the man who forwarded it to her. And I spoke with him, and he told me he got it. This thing was sent to him by a gentleman who was in prison at the time. Who was in prison at the time. And so it began to make sense. Of course, when I read it, I knew some of the characters mentioned in the message. But it's a very serious matter. I mean, when somebody's life is at stake, it is more important than anything else. So the first thing I did was to report to the CP, report to the IG, and report to the DSS. They took up the matter. They went to prison. They interviewed the two people who were conspiring to kill. They also invited the gentleman who was named there as their financier. Later on, of course, if you read through there, they just described him as the owner of filling stations. Of course, in my place, there's only one owner of filling stations. But when the guy who overheard the discussions came out from prison, I also met with him. he gave further statements to the police and to DSS. But beyond that, he also began to express fear that those people were threatening him for leaking the information to kill me. The police tried to encourage him to make statements, which he did. Outside this, he made further statements to DSS, to CP's office, and to the IG's office. Part of the statement he made also was that he was receiving threats for leaking this information. For me, I wouldn't have called this press conference, but for two reasons. One, and perhaps even more importantly, is that the person mentioned in the documents and the further statements, Gabriel Obeche, the owner of Rain Oil, began to say that I concocted the story. You know, I have no reason to make up such a story. So I wanted to deal with the issue of credibility. I have no reason to make up a story about somebody who is in prison. But secondly, and much more importantly, is that the guy who informed us on this plot, just as he feared for his life, he died 3 weeks ago. He died 3 weeks ago, so much so that even the mother and siblings have refused now to, they were meant to be at this press conference. The gentleman at Sapphire Perfumes, Wale, was also meant to be here, but he said he's also scared for his life because the way and manner that the gentleman died is still a mystery and suspicious. We just felt at some point that having gone to the police would have been enough. At least once they were told that the plan has leaked, that might encourage them to abort whatever they wanted to do, but it didn't seem to have worked. So I just thought that I should talk to you about this, and of course we can talk about the country or other issues that you might want to talk about. I know one or two of you here want to talk about Paris Club reforms and all that. You read about it. But investigations are ongoing on the plot to assassinate and on the death of this young man. His name is O.C. Bosa. O.C. Bosa is not your typical prisoner. Apparently, from what I understand, he had some disagreements with just some domestic issue. And so he found himself with the police, and from the police to court. He was granted bail. He was granted bail, but he didn't have a surety to bail him. So he ended up in a Abuja prison. So whilst in prison, he overheard these discussions. He only spent 3 weeks in prison. The guys who were plotting to kill in prison, they are still in prison. So I just thought I should bring this to the attention of the media for reasons that I've told you already. And so if you have any questions about this, I'm quite happy to take them.
Thank you so much. So we're not leave the floor open for questions and answers. So once you indicate your hand, you speak tell us your religion, your name and religion, and take a question. So let's start with you.
Thank you very much, sir.
One of the characters you mentioned, from the same community. And then we're all aware that there have been some issues that have to do with the community, some family issues from the law. So this alleged attempt, on your life. Can you see any synergy between what's going on between and then the plots, alleged plots to take after your life?
Of course, that's simple. If not for the issues back home, there's nothing else. But it doesn't, just because you have disagreements over one or two things, doesn't mean that you should plot to kill anybody. You don't kill anybody. You have no right to anybody's life.
So waiting for the family side.
No, we're from the same village, but not from the same family.
Thank you so much. Okay, let's keep it.
Well, outside here, I read from this NGO. I'm trying to follow what this is right from the very outset. Through me, there was a time to send someone to your village to do more investigations about the land in question, the university in question, the sports university. My question now, how
Is there any way out? Village, family, settlements, and way out to settle this?
Yes, there are certainly ways out of this. First of all, there are two issues. The first is the kingship issue, which has seemingly been resolved about 2 weeks ago. The traditional rulers have chosen a new king now, and so we are all supporting the choice of the traditional rulers. We hope that in the next few weeks, he will be formally installed. So that has been dealt with. The other issue about land is not really an issue, just a propaganda by them. They were trying to hide under instigating lies and hatred, talking about land. No, there was never any issue about land. Land was properly applied for and properly processed through the late king and his chiefs. All the chiefs are still alive today. Committees were set up, an MOU was signed with the town. We got the certificate of occupancy for the land, and we just did everything properly. So even those that have been supported by Gabriel Ogbeche, they wrote a petition to the IG on this same land issue. And the IG's report is also here. This is the second document, which shows that they just lied. They were just lied about everything. There were no issues about land. They just wanted to create crisis in the village. This report is self-explanatory. This is the report of the IG monitoring unit, based on their own petition. And the important thing about this report is that it has now recommended that they should be prosecuted for misleading and giving false information to the police. So please, make that available to them as well.
Okay, let me ask, my name is Medina Dauda Badabo, I get the Voice of America in Abuja. In your submission, you said those people who had that discussion are in prison.
Yes.
What has their incarceration got
in 2017, you know, when the king died, one of his sons wanted to become the next king. But I wouldn't support him for reasons best known to me and members of the family. And all the chiefs were also supporting me. They felt that he wasn't qualified to be the king. Just as we've been proven by the recent selection by the traditional rulers. They didn't select him. So what he did was he brought in thugs. He brought in thugs from outside the state. These thugs, numbering over 30. These thugs, numbering over 30, they went from house to house, beating people up. They terrorized the entire community. They killed 2 people. They took the chiefs, the prime minister, who was the ESI, they took the Odogu, they took all of them to the palace in front of my cousin and beat them up. So all the victims, 29 of them, all the victims, 29 of them, reported to the police over time. And those people that beat them up, the hoodlums, the terrorists, as we call them, they were all charged with offenses to do with the killings and the terrorizing of those villagers, destructions of houses, burning of properties. 29 houses were burnt. I said 2 lives were lost. So they were charged by the federal government. And they have, about 14 of them have been charged, and they've appeared at the Federal High Court here in Abuja. And of course, after the appearance in court, the trial is ongoing. But so they were remanded in custody at Kuje prison. You understand it now? So whilst in Kuje prison, of course, I've made it clear to everybody, and here now, I'll say it again, I will always support rule of law and order. If you commit an offense, you should be punished. Certainly, if you kill others, you should be punished. If you go destroying houses and beating up innocent people because they disagree with you, you should be punished. So I support their persecution, and that's why they think that I am their opponent, because I am supporting their persecution.
Okay. Okay. My name is Nwoko.
How Busa died. Busa was his name? Yes, it was Busa. Can you tell us how the man died? Yes, I wasn't there. I was there 10 years ago. What killed him? How did you know?
All I know from the family was, I said that he was sick, that within 2 days he died. That but he was scared. He was worried about being killed. But I don't know. Nobody knows, at least as far as I'm concerned, until the autopsy report is done. So the police have ordered for an autopsy report.
I report who left them. I would like to put it to you, sir. Are you not in any fear as regards this? Are you not in any fear? Of course, the threat to your life. That is one. Secondly, other people in this very situation, they are afraid. What do you have to tell them now for them to continue as they are like witness now?
That's why we are here. That's why you are here. So that you can make the world know. That if anything happens to any one of us, you know where to look at.
Sir, on the virus what is the latest? I once saw a report that the state government, I think local government, what is the latest about it? And lastly, coming from it is supposed to be a world press conference on state of the nation. Let's planning to run for?
Start with the last one. I am not one of those that believe in Hausa president or Igbo president or Yoruba president. I just believe that the best person should be elected to address the many problems of Nigeria. There are many problems of Nigeria. So the ball is actually in the courts of the people. At the right time, you people must decide, are you going to continue with the status quo, the way things are done, or are you going to look for new brains, new ideas, new policy makers that could make a change in the economy of Nigeria? The problem of Nigeria is not really about tribes or religion or true federalism, or whether we have a president from Anambra State or from Adamawa State or from Lagos State. Those are not the issues. For me, I always talk about the problem of Nigeria coming down to the economy of Nigeria. The economy of Nigeria is really not an economy in the real sense of the word. If you look at the indices in other countries where people are gainfully employed, where there are opportunities for everybody, we don't have that in Nigeria. The economy of Nigeria is at a standstill. Just because people buy cars or buy aeroplane or build houses doesn't mean that the economy is improving. Graduates abroad, or even non-graduates, when they get employment, within 3 months of being employed, for instance, they have access to financing, access to credit. So a young graduate or a carpenter or a driver who has a 3-month salary should be able to have facility from the bank to get a mortgage, to get financing. So you get a mortgage to buy a house that is commensurate with your salary, your income. You should be able to get a finance to buy a car that's also commensurate with what you're earning. Everything about the economy is wrong in Nigeria. So until the banks, in fact, this is the problem of the fiscal sector, that is FISCAL. The fiscal sector is the biggest problem we have in Nigeria. The banks are not functioning as banks. There are no mortgage companies. There are no finance houses. The insurance companies are dead. The sector is dead. The stock exchange is almost there, ceremoniously. Any government that focuses on these sectors, on these areas, will make a lot of progress for Nigeria. In fact, this area alone can employ no less than 10 million Nigerians within 2 years, if properly managed. The banks, going back to the banks again, the banks cannot on their own be imposing interest rates of 12% or 14% or even more. Government has to come in and regulate them and fix interest rates. And it's a very simple thing to do. Because you must have, government should be able to have a task force that will deal with this sector. Once it is done, you see the economy going. Practically all houses in Nigeria are built and bought by cash. That cash is not helping anybody. That cash is just sunk in there. The cash is not part of the economy. You, the owner of the house, cannot use it to go and borrow money. Say, take money, take this house and give me facility. Abroad, everybody goes on holiday. And those who can afford it, they take financing from the banks or finance to go on holidays. When you come back, over 6 months you pay. So this sector, the fiscal sector, should be the driving force for the economy. When people are gainfully employed, they become responsible citizens. You know, we talk about Boko Haram, we talk about herdsmen, we talk about the various groups. We talk about the 419 and the rest of them. Look, the fact is that these people did not choose to become those things because they love it. No, it is principally because of the economy, the frustration they feel, the pain they feel, the bitterness they feel. So there is urgent need for a government to focus on the economy. Because when the economy is good, when people are employed, gainfully employed, receiving proper salaries, including yourselves here, you know, there will be more law-abiding. Crime rate will fall. Things will work out well. The few times I've had interviews in UK and elsewhere, with BBC, with CNN, you know what? After the interviews, they send money to me. They pay me for appearing on their TV channels. They pay me. But Nigeria is not like that. I mean, after this interview now, you expect me to see you, isn't it? So there are things fundamentally wrong with us as a country, and it's because of the economy. If the economy were to be good, if every one of you here were to be earning 5 million naira or the equivalent every month, you wouldn't be looking for peanuts from people that you interview, would you? So the economy is bad. That is not to say that it's the fault of this government. This is the fault of the system. This is the system. We are lucky that we have a very good country, as it were, geographically speaking. You know, the weather is beautiful. We can farm all year round almost. We produce many things here. We just need to address the economy properly, and you will see the difference. I mean, as I said before, in UK, a graduate or an artisan that gets a job and gets a mortgage or financing, they are more likely to stay in their jobs for the next 10, 15, 20 years. So they become disciplined. They don't want to lose those jobs. Because if they have any problems, all those their finances will go haywire and they'll be in trouble. So it pays them to remain honest. It pays them to work hard. But they, you know, they have a clear vision of what life holds for them. But here, there's no clear vision. Everybody is running around in circles. Everybody. And this is not good. So time will come when you have to choose the right leadership that will give you what you want. Let me say this. I admire the current president, Buhari. I admire him. Do you know why I admire him? Because I like honesty. I love honesty. And he's an honest man. Yes, age might not be on his side. Yes, ill health might be a problem because we all have such challenges. But if he became an elected president when he was in his 40s, I'm sure there would have been a lot of difference. You know what he did as a military head of state. So it's not just about the head of state or the president being an honest person. Everybody around him also has to cue in and deliver for the interest of the people. Let me, I'm coming. Yes, your second issue on Paris Club, yes. You know, let me tell you, Paris Club work began as far back as 2002 with Boni Haruna Nyame of Taraba State, Governor Ture of Niger State, now late, Peter Obi of Anambra State, Elechi of Ebonyi State, or Hakim, I think, of Imo State. These were the governors that gave me this support. Because it began just from nowhere. In the House of Reps, there was a day I had a meeting with the president and others. We welcomed Wolfgang. Wolfgang was the World Bank president then. He came to Nigeria, and he from nowhere, he said Nigeria was owing $35 billion. That's what he said. Then within 2 weeks, we had a meeting with Atiku, then vice president. Atiku said no, that what Nigeria was owing was less than 25 billion. But I felt that they were both wrong. That was why I discussed and made further case for the president to review our foreign loans, all foreign loans. And you know, the rest is history, because through that work, with the help of Ministry of Finance and others, you now know that Nigeria exited from the foreign loans. But before then, many of these states could not deal with the monthly deductions from their allocations. These are direct deductions were being used supposedly to finance the foreign loans. But one thing that Obasanjo did, and I give thanks to him, was that as soon as I told him that federal government should stop deducting loans, stop deducting money from the monthly allocations of states, he agreed. That meant that states had more money to deal with things. So the next challenge was to work out how much the states had overpaid over time. For example, by the time I began to do the work, according to federal government, that's the #1 state. Other places, the Abia state was owed a refund of over from America, from UK, China. You feel very bad about the state of our own sportsmen and women. This university is meant to give the very young, talented students the opportunity to combine sports and education at the same time. I can assure you that by the time we start operations, within 10 years, Nigeria should be able to produce Olympic champions from that university.
Yes, the second part.
Malaria is everybody's problem. It's our problem. It's our own pandemic, as it were. Let me just put it this way. The investment in vaccine is ongoing. We are just about signing an agreement with some research scientists in America. I'm hopeful that before the end of the year, there will be some result. But just ask yourself, why is it that African leaders over the years never bothered to invest in vaccines? Just look at the way the Europeans and Americans are investing in COVID-19 vaccines, because that is a problem for them. But people here in Africa, in Nigeria, they don't think that malaria is such a huge problem, but it is. If you look at the World Health Organization records that says over 500,000 people die annually in Africa from malaria scourge, then it's a problem. It's a big problem. I just feel that the investment in vaccine is one thing. The other thing that we need to do collectively, one is sanitation. The cleanup of Nigeria must be done holistically by everybody. Cleanup doesn't mean just one day in a month exercise. It must be a continuous effort. we must manage our wastes. Everybody, from your offices to your houses, you must manage waste disposal to the point where we are now recommending that every local government area must have a plant, a recycling plant. That's the only way we can sustain waste management. Once we do that, sustain waste management, clean up, then we can now do the final leg, which is fumigation, which should also be done across board. So I just feel that this is something that federal government must spearhead. We are meeting with them, we are discussing with them, we are working out the programs. I believe that by latest June, federal government should be able to roll out the plan in dealing with eradication of malaria in Africa. In Nigeria at least to start with, before we talk about other countries.
Thank you so much. I think we just have to two more and we're done. Okay. Let's take one more. Let's take one more. Okay, let's have a meeting. Let's have a meeting. Fast. What's your name?
Interest rate do you think Nigeria should have? And then if you help me, what should we do? And then has security been built around your family as well?
Yes, we are okay with security. Thank you very much. Interest rates. We should be competitive. Banks don't function in Nigeria the way banks should function. Banks are there to lend money, not just to take your money. They are there to finance your projects. Whatever it is that you have ideas for, and you have feasibility study, and it is, feasible. You hear of banks making profit about 400 billion, 500 billion. That profit is for the shareholders. Government can make banks, they can compel banks almost, let me use the word compel banks, to use half of that money to lend to people who want to buy houses, who want to buy cars, who want to buy telephones on credit, or wristwatches on credit, whatever it is. But it will not make any sense if the interest rate is beyond 2%. So I would recommend an interest rate of at 2% interest rate, the banks will still compete. They'll compete from 1% to 2%. It will become very competitive for banks. Because look, by the time they start lending competitively, every sector will wake up. Construction industry will wake up because people start to build and sell. The automobile industry will wake up, people will assemble cars and sell. Most of you here probably drive second-hand cars. But you know what? Your colleagues abroad, they all drive new cars. Your colleagues in South Africa, go to South Africa and look at journalists there, UK, America. As long as you have an income that is reasonable, you walk into any car showroom, new car showroom, not second-hand, and you are given a financing that will go with your salary. As I told you before, this is just taken for granted. It's not a luxury. It is something that we deserve as a people. And if you have people buying what they want to buy, doing what they want to do, life will be a lot better for everybody.
Okay, so let's take a let me have a look.
My name is Alleges, Bishop of Abuja, with regards to the state of the nation, you recently established a state medical club, which is part of the Unit 1, and then you're a graduate of major organization, especially entertainment, holding and the likes, with Her Majesty leading in the industry. What plans
As I told you, I am working on establishing a university. The university is called STARS University. STARS stands for Sports, Technology, Arts and Research Sciences. The football club will be part of the university. It's a talent hunt project. We're going to have other clubs, swimming club, basketball club, boxing club. That is part of my overview of what a university, a sports university should be. So it's not just about business, it's about looking for talent and growing them. The same thing with the entertainment industry. We are working on something similar. So in the next few weeks, months, you will hear about something called Arena. Everybody has a talent. You could be a painter, you could be a footballer, you could be a musician or an actor. We want to give everybody the opportunity to be discovered and supported. I think there are many hidden talents in Nigeria that are just there, doing nothing. So we give them a platform to be discovered.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much. On behalf of Prince Honorable Dr. Nwoko, we would like to thank you for coming to us. To do the vote of thanks, I would like to invite the media aid, Mr. Lee, for the vote of thanks, please.
All right, thank you once again for honoring our invitation. Even if it is in the middle of the night, we appreciate you. Read it all. Please, let's make use of our platform to spread out the message and understanding that we have said. Thank you so much. We appreciate your presence.
Okay. Thank you so much. Let's hand it down the press. And this lecture is coming to the end of the press. Thank you so much for coming. God bless you.
Sorry, there's a light refreshment.
There's a light refreshment at the
Next way, please.